So, risk mitigation is one of the most important elements within an overall financial portfolio. So, as an example, one of the main concerns that clients have is the volatility of the stock market. And more specifically, what would happen if the market crashed right before they were getting ready to retire? And that is a major concern. So on the screen, what we have here are the most recent 40 years of S&P 500 performance. 2021, rolling back 40 years, back to 1982. And what we're going to focus on is this period right here, the year 2000 through the year 2008. In fact, I'll blow that up for you here. And the reason we're highlighting this particular window is that we are starting off with three negative back-to-back S&P returns. That was essentially the tech bubble, or the dot-com bubble. And then at the bottom there, we see the infamous year 2008 that was linked to the mortgage crisis. And so if we look at the sequence and we depict that on a graph on the right-hand side of the screen there, again, we see the year 2000, 2001, 2002, and then we see 2007 and 2008, all experiencing negative returns. So in this 9-year historical window right here, the S&P 500 experienced 5 negative returns within this 9-year period. So that's almost a decade of a person's life, and we see a pretty dramatic decline in account value. Now, the S&P 500 did recover thereafter. If you look at 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012, we were on a nice little bull run. But essentially, it would have taken the client 13 years just to break even of where they were at the beginning of 1999. So imagine if a person retired at the beginning of 1999, their retirement plan really took a hit, and they would have had to completely recalibrate because of all of those consecutive losses within that very short 9-year period of time. So one of the ways we mitigate risk in the leverage index arbitrage platform is we have a 0% floor and a cap. Now, depending on the underlying product that we use, that will dictate the cap. So some of these underlying products have a cap as low as 8%. Some of these products have a cap as high as 12%. And some of these products have bonus features that can push that maximum allowable return in a given year, in other words, the cap, up to north of 18 to 19%. So let's talk about how this works. Again, this is the same historical 40-year window, again, 1982 through 2021. And we're going to take a look at this window here, starting with the same year, the year 2000. And I'll blow that up for you here. So as we see in the years 2000, 2001, and 2002, wherein the S&P 500 produced a negative return in each one of those 3 years, in this case, if you have a 0% floor, while the rest of the free world is taking those losses, the 0% floor would mean that your index account would credit 0% as opposed to experiencing a negative return. Now, for that risk mitigation, downside protection of the 0% floor, what you give up is a little bit of the upside, and that's where the cap comes in. So if you were in a proposition with a 10% cap, that would be the maximum return you could experience in a given year. So if the S&P 500 did 5%, you'd get 5%. If it did 8%, you'd get 8. If it did 9%, you'd get 9. If you did 10%, you get 10. If the S&P 500 did 11%, you would only get 10. And if the S&P 500 did 30% or 40%, again, you would be capped at a maximum return in that given year of 10%. So on the graph on the right side of the screen, that kind of depicts what would have happened in each of those years. So as we see in the year 2000, 2001, and 2002, when the S&P 500 was experiencing negative returns, at least you wouldn't be experiencing the same losses. Again, in 2007 and 2008, while the rest of the free world was experiencing huge losses, in 2008, about a 40% loss, in this offering, you would be protected with that 0% floor. And so over time, we don't see those drastic ongoing losses. But it's not just the risk mitigation feature that makes leverage index arbitrage so attractive, it's also the tax benefit. So if we take a look at the same backtested 40-year period, here are the historical S&P returns correlated with each one of those years. However, those are gross returns. And if we apply a modest 30% tax burden, the after-tax net return is substantially different. So what we're modeling here is a $1 contribution at the very beginning, and then tracking this historical performance, including the tax burden on an ongoing basis. And what we see here is that $1 would have turned into $11.08 at the end of that 40th year, ending in the year 2021. If, however, we use the 0% floor and 10% cap proposition, and we assume the 0% taxation on the gains, if we contribute that same $1 in the beginning of this 40-year sequence, by the end of the 40-year sequence, we have an account balance of $15.25. So in the graph on the right-hand side of the screen, the blue line represents the after-tax value of the S&P account with the unlimited upside and unlimited downside potential, and the green line represents the offering with the 0% floor and the 10% cap with the tax-free benefit. So as we see in this 40-year historical period, the tax-free floor and cap offering ended up producing a 37% greater return than the unlimited upside, unlimited downside account. And that's due to, one, eliminating the losses, and two, the benefit of the tax-free treatment. Now, that hypothetical 30% tax bracket was calculated assuming that we have a married couple living in California that is jointly making $122,000 in household income, and we're using 2021 tax brackets. So most of our clients that participate in leverage index arbitrage are making a household income substantially larger than $122,000 a year. But I thought we'd use this lower tax bracket just to be overly conservative. If a client were in a substantially higher tax bracket, then the disparity between the unlimited upside, unlimited downside blue line and the 0% floor, 10% cap tax-free treatment of the green line would be even greater. But these numbers are assuming that we are not using any leverage whatsoever. So this brings us to the fourth benefit of the leverage index arbitrage platform, and that is that we use responsible leverage. So to find out more about how we use leverage, go ahead and watch the next video.